Good morning everyone and welcome to the webinar today. We are covering our SharePoint connector. I have Faye O'Connell joining us to explain the product roadmap, and Tiago Bruno will take you through the demonstration. So, some housekeeping for today's webinar. Please feel free to use the chat feature as we progress through the demonstration to ask any questions that you may have, and we'll get to these at the end of the demonstration in the Q&A session. We'll try and cover off as many of these questions as possible within our time limit, but if for any reason your question does not get answered, we'll take these offline with you after the event. As you may be aware, the webinar is recorded and a copy of this will be sent to you following today's session. A survey will also pop up at the end of the Q&A, and we'd really appreciate it if you could take a moment to complete this so that we can continue to improve future webinars and the content. Our next webinar will incorporate integration between HireServe, ATS and Business World, so please look out for the links that will come through the email to you. A little overview of Embridge Consulting for those of you that have not attended a webinar before. We are a Unit4 partner and have over 530 years experience across the team. We have a broad range of services around the Unit4 marketplace, including training, upgrade services. We have a managed ERP support, application support service, and you can see a few of the services here on the screen. Most recently, we have partnered with HireServe. HireServe is an applicant tracking system provider, and we will be a reseller for their recruitment solution. But today, you will see just one of the many developments we offer to Business World clients. Without further delay, I would like to introduce you to Faye, our product manager, who will take you through the solution roadmap.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us for the Smart SharePoint Connector webinar. Today, we're hoping to provide you an overview of one of our smart solutions and also kind of get across some of the benefits that this solution could offer. We want to give you some background to the development journey that we've been on in terms of maturing this product and making it available on a wider basis. And then kind of look a little bit in terms of the practical elements of getting started. So if you were to purchase the solution, how would it be implemented, how difficult it is. So we'll talk about the practicalities of the implementation of the product. Tiago will then be doing a demonstration of the SharePoint connector. We'll be looking at 3 different demonstrations with a variety of endpoints. And then we'll give you a bit of an overview in terms of the roadmap, so the future developments that we have planned for the product in the next release. And at the end of the session, we'll be holding a Q&A. Okay, so today is around our SharePoint Online connector, and SharePoint Online connector enables SharePoint Online to be available to the Unit4 Business World document archive, and we're going to see that kind of come to life throughout the morning. In terms of an overview, you'll probably know that Business World provides us with a document archive facility that enables us to store electronic documents within the system. And what we've done is create a bespoke document archive drive for Business World called the Embridge document system. And the SharePoint Online connector utilises this Embridge document system, the EDS, to make SharePoint Online available to the Business World document archive. So it enables you to allow a Microsoft platform to be used as a repository for your files that are loaded in Business World. Okay, in terms of the solution itself, the SharePoint Online connector will enable files to be uploaded and downloaded from 4 endpoints. So the Unit4 Business World desktop itself, the Business World desktop centrally configured client, the web, and the SharePoint Online portal. So you can choose whichever approach fits your business needs and way of working to drive efficiencies and really leverage the investment that you've made in terms of this SharePoint Online. And we'll see a number of these endpoints being demonstrated later on in the webinar by Tiago. Okay, so what's the benefit of the solution? The solution in terms of connecting Business World Document Archive and SharePoint Online really enables collaborative working, team working to enable documents to be shared easily and made available by both endpoints, you can really leverage the investment of SharePoint Online and also use the standard SharePoint Online functionality to find content really quickly, as in searching for files and documents rather than navigating through the business world and platform itself. Okay, in terms of the development journey we've been on, the product is currently within what we're calling our early adoption program. It is a program that we use to really mature and enhance the solutions before we make them available to wider release. The planned wider release is for January 2020, and at that time we expect the solution to be submitted for Unit4 Cloud approval and compatible with Business World Milestone 7. So in terms of the demonstration and getting started, we're actually going to look at what's involved in deploying the solution and configuring it to make it available. I'm going to hand you over now to Tiago Bruno, who's one of our developers, and Tiago is going to talk you through getting started and the actual demonstration of the product. Morning, Tiago.
Hello, good morning. So, okay, so let's jump for the demo itself. Okay, so just a couple of technical things, which is we're not going to show up, but it's really just setting up. So the solution involves just a couple of primary steps. So we load the solution and define some system setup values, which is going to connect Business World to our SharePoint portal. We then create some document types in which the document type will use our SharePoint connector as a document system, and then we can start uploading the documents. So I'm going to share my screen now, and we're going to do a couple of file loads and changes. So right now, the demonstration is going to show the first step is going to be a load on Unit4 desktop, and we're going to see it on SharePoint. So as you can see, I have my 3 screens open here. I'll just going to highlight now desktop. So what we're going to try to do now is load some files and pick them up on the other end, or at least see all this activity. So to start, I'm just going to quickly load on a customer. I'm going to imagine that I'm going to load a contract to a customer. So I'm going to open customer 1001, the customer master file, and I'm going to load a file on the customer master file. And as soon as my customer master file loads in, let's just give it a couple of seconds for this loading. And then we're going to, as soon as we have our master file open, we're going to load a PDF, which is going to be a contract for this customer master file. Okay, so here we go. We have it open now. So I'm going to open now Document Archive. And in this case, we have several document types. I have my document type specific for SharePoint. And I am going to load my file now to my customer master file. And here we go. I am now loading my contract. So I'm just going to say this is our new contract with this customer, and I'm going to save. So since this SharePoint connector and that being a pipeline that connects my business world to my SharePoint, I'm now expecting to see this file on our SharePoint portal. So I'm going to change now to our test repository of our Embridge SharePoint, a test one, which we end up testing our stuff. So here we go. I'm going to drive now to my folders, which I'm going to try to find now our customer 1001. I'm just going to save this as well. Okay, 1001. Okay, so how you can see, this is the file that we just loaded. You can see it was just loaded about a minute ago. So this is exactly what we did. So we load the file from Business World master file, Business World on the customer master file. We loaded via the standard Business World document archive, and the file is actually now stored on SharePoint. Now we're going to try something different now. So I am going to highlight now our web version, and I'm going to open on the personal master file. So we're going to try to do now is we're going to load the file from the web front end, and we're going to see the file on SharePoint. And then we are going to make some changes on SharePoint because we're going to open the Excel spreadsheet in SharePoint Online, just make a couple of changes, and we're just going to try to open the file on the desktop to see those changes made. So I'm going to open this resource master file. Okay, now I have this resource master file record, and I am going to the document archive. Okay, here we go. I'm going to select my document type, and I'm going now to upload this Excel spreadsheet over here. So I'm going to upload, I'm going to select the file. Here we go, employee 2001 details. Okay, and now I am going to save. Cool. So I just saved this Excel spreadsheet with the employee details. I'm going to just open the Excel spreadsheet so you can see the content. You know, it's not much of a thing, but it could give you a context. So this is an Excel spreadsheet with some information. Now, the goal is to this category. We don't know the category, and I'm going to just change this after so that you guys can see that we are working the same file. So this is the original file with an A on the category. So it's the file that I just loaded in here. Okay, I'm going to close this, and I'm just going to save. So now the file should show up on my SharePoint portal. So I'm going to navigate and try to find my SP resource, which is my doc type. And this is the client. And should be 2001. Okay, so this is the file that I just loaded right now. It's the employee 2001 details. So I'm going to open the file. I'm actually going to open the file with Excel Online. And I'm going to make some changes on the file. So we don't know the category, but I'm going to say main category and just save it. Okay, so if I reopen the file, my changes were updated. So now we'll just open desktop. So the goal is to actually show you, you know, both ends and how things can be done. I'm going to open now resource master file, and I'm going to open this lady on this end. So I'm going to open employee 2001 on this end. I'm going to go to the document archive and SP resource, and you should see the file that was updated. So with this exercise, we load the file on our web front end. The file, you know, ends up being stored directly on our SharePoint portal, and I edited that file, and I end up having the file now on this end. Now I'm going to rename the original file so that you know this is the old one, because I am going to download the file. So I'm going to download this to my desktop. Okay, so the file now was saved here. So this is the file that I downloaded. And I'm going to open it again so that you guys can see that the file that was picked up is the one that was changed. So with this, we can see that we can create the files and load the files from different ends. Now, for the last step of the demonstration is going to be loading the file on SharePoint. And then we're going to see the file on the master file on Business World on the desktop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the specific folder. I'm going to open this folder 1003. I'm going to explain then later how this structure is going to work out. And I'm going to load this file via SharePoint. So I just load the file, customer contracts. Now this file is loaded on SharePoint side. So I want to open now my accounts receivable, my customer 1003, and I should be able to speak customer. I should be able to see now the file that I just loaded. We load the files on Business World. It creates the structure of the indexes. In this case, the document library, document type, and then the indexes. So in this case, the indexes end up being the client and the customer ID, because that the index is defined for the document type. So this is the folder structure that gets created, meaning that if I want to load a file and I want that file to be seen on the desktop, I just need to make sure that my folder structure is the same, and that when I'm dropping the file right now on customer 1003, then based on the document type that I have, but specifically this one, based on the document type, is smart enough to understand where it should pick up things. For instance, if just as an example, if I open, I don't know if we have anything on customer 1004. So, okay, so we don't have anything on customer 1004. I'm just going to now create a folder. Oh, actually, as soon as we open the document archive, so the first thing the functionality ends up doing is try to search if there's any file. If there's not any file, it actually creates the folder structure. That's why it just created the folder right now. So I was gonna try to manually create the folder. I'm just gonna open now number 5. I don't want to open because it's going to create a folder. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to create a folder. So I manually created this folder on SharePoint side, and I'm just going to drop this file in the 1005 customer. And now let me just refresh this. And we should see the file now on this end. So just generated just now. So as you can see, we can load and download files from several ends. So we can load the files from the desktop. And when I'm saying desktop and central configuration client, we can load and download files from the web front end. And we can load and download files from the SharePoint front end. I'm going to hand over now to Faye.
Okay, lovely. Thank you for that, Tiago. That was a really helpful demonstration and hopefully illustrated the flexibility that the solution gives you to access and edit documents from various endpoints and really support collaborative working and to drive efficiencies within the organisation. In terms of the product, I explained at the outset that we're in an early development, an early kind of access program at the moment where we're maturing the product, and we're looking to release the product at the end of January of 2020. However, we have identified through the development of that program enhancements that we'd like to see to the product to be released by the end of Q1, and that will be our version 2 of the product. So some of the items that we've identified include kind of enhancing the solution to ensure it's compatible with Microsoft multi-factor authentication. At the moment, the solution uses a general user in terms of credentials, and we're looking to have a unified login to support kind of greater flexibility there, and also looking at the folder structures to support individual folder structures per document type. So there's some of the enhancements that we have planned for the end of Q1, our second release of the product. And the early adoption program has been really instrumental in helping to tease out some kind of must-have enhancements and then the subsequent roadmap. In terms of the future, we're also exploring looking at other enhancements, which include batch loading of documents, looking at other connectors for other repositories such as Google Drive and Dropbox, and also the conversion of files from one document type to another. So actually being able to push the existing files from Business World to SharePoint as part of kind of a conversion when you go live with the solution. There are other things that we have planned for the roadmap in the future. So that's covered our kind of overview of the product, a demonstration of the product in action, and also highlighting some of the plans that we have with regards to the future of the product. I'll hand you back now to Tracy, who's going to facilitate the Q&A.
Thanks, Faye, and thanks, Tiago. That was fantastic. I hope you all found that useful. We do have some questions coming through on the chat. Do take a moment if you have any questions right now to pop them through. So let's start with the first question. We've got a question here. Does the Smart SharePoint connector configuration allow multiple SharePoint sites or site collections to be defined for different document types? So business documents such as contracts in a different site collection to, say, HR documents. Tiago.
Okay, so currently we have a connection only to one site. That's really a good question. From the connection point of view, we don't hold the connections at a document type level. I'm not saying that it's impossible. That's actually a nice question, but we have the sites per connection. So when you end up setting it up, you set up your business world to connect to a SharePoint portal, and you actually then define your SharePoint document library, and then the whole thing ends up happening within that document library, you know, the folder structure and all that. So because this is, you know, we started from an humble basis to make the connections and make the connectors and make sure that the files get saved and stored. We are in between Business World and Microsoft and try to create this pipeline. So right now it's not possible. I'm not seeing this being completely impossible, but right now that the product doesn't have that feature. But I think the colleague that raised that question, if he can put a little bit more of information on it, then we can kind of take him on board and try to understand if it's feasible and all that. But right now it doesn't have that. So there's one connector and it connects one business role to one SharePoint portal only.
Okay, thanks, Tiago. We've got another question here. How is the folder structure defined on the SharePoint document library?
Okay, so the folder structure is based on on the setup. In the setup we specify what's the SharePoint portal and what's the library, the SharePoint portal and the document library on SharePoint. The folder structure is set up based on business roles document library, and then the document type, and then the indexes inside the document type. So, for instance, what we have been seeing, and when you saw me driving through the folders within SharePoint, so when we load something, automatically kind of creates a structure if it doesn't exist. But if we want to load a file from the SharePoint side, we need to have in consideration the structure, and it's like that. So it's document library, then the document type, and then the subsequent indexes that are made based on that document type. In our case, we were only having client and customer. I think we use customer, and the other one for the SP underscore resource for the resource master file was just client and then the resource ID.
Okay, thank you for that again. We have another question here. Are we able to take file reference data from Unit4 and apply it as metadata in the file in SharePoint?
Well, I'm not really able to answer on SharePoint questions. In this case, the connector that we are doing is only pushing the file from SharePoint to, from Business World to SharePoint. So what happens is the connector exists between Business World and SharePoint, so the file is actually stored on SharePoint. So when we are loading things from the document side, from document archive functionality on Business World, we're just actually dropping the file and then telling, based on the folder structure, telling Business World, hey, your file that you want based on this document type and these indexes, just go for that SharePoint portal on that library, which is set up on the back, and then based on the indexes, look at this folder structure and pick up the file that it's on the end of the folder structure. So we end up pushing the file. So if you want to pick up metadata or create metadata, that is something that it should be done on the SharePoint side, and we're not handing over anything. And this would be something that would require further research or development, because it would be something that would have to be record on in this case on the SharePoint portal, leaving some metadata for the associated file. I know that there are some properties that can be set up within the files, in which when we load the file, we can say the file has a specific set of properties. But since we are loading a file from Business World and we're just saying, hey, on this structure of index, here we go, a file, we're not actually passing too much properties. So that would require some investigation if, when loading the file, we can actually pass those properties, so that when the file gets loaded and saved on SharePoint Online, if we can pass that information, that it ends up being the properties of the file from Business World, and if we can then pass those to the property of the file that it gets loaded on SharePoint portal. So this would be something that we have to investigate thoroughly, even because it touches SharePoint development.
Thanks, Tiago. I think that brings us to an end of the questions and the time that we have available, actually. I'd like to thank Tiago for doing that brief demonstration, and to Faye for giving us a background to the development and future roadmap of that particular solution. Thank you both. Thank you to the attendees for joining us today. Please do complete the survey. We look forward to seeing you on the next webinar. Thank you again, and goodbye.